Hello there Hollows and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to be talking about the new game Lords of the Fallen, which released today. Now, first of all, I'm going to say the game is currently in a very rough state. Very rough. The performance is under 30 frames per second on the Xbox Series X as we're making this video. A patch has been released on the PC and PS5. I don't know what the performance is like there, but I'm assuming it is probably a little bit better than what we have here on the Xbox Series X. But I'm not going to say it's probably not going to be that much better, because one patch is not going to be able to sort out all of the serious performance issues that this game has currently got. But I'm going to try and separate this video from that for the most part, and I'm going to focus on the gameplay and what the gameplay feels like and that kind of stuff, and whether I think this game is going to be worth getting when the patches have sort of ironed out some of the serious performance issues which are making this currently, for me personally, unplayable. Now, again, setting that aside, in my personal opinion, this game looks like it definitely has a lot of potential. Now, I'm not entirely sure whether that will be, we'll see whether that actually is going to be realized, the potential from for the performance, because if the performance stays the way it is, it's not going to be, the game's just not going to be fun at all ever. But so first of all, I want to say the first thing I noticed when I picked up the controller and started playing this game is that the controls, in my opinion, feel good. I'm not going to say great. Doesn't feel like Lies of P, when Lies of P, in my personal opinion, is the closest any game has ever come to feeling properly like a Dark Souls game. This game, I think the character feels a little bit lighter. You don't feel like you have as fine, precise control over your character. However, I think it is still good. It is still good. It's still playable. It's still better than the original Lords of the Fallen. It's still better than Bleak Faith Forsaken, better than Mortal Shell, better than Thymesia, these other recent Souls-like games which have tried to have that kind of, to emulate the Souls feel, but have failed for the most part. It's definitely better than those ones. So I'm going to say this game, probably feel-wise, is probably the second best, in my personal opinion, after Lies of P. Lies of P is the closest we've come to a game feeling like Dark Souls. Now, world design, I think, visually, this game does look good. Again, performance-wise, I can't quite see exactly what they're going for, because there's a lot of issues, but I think I can see the world design and the level design does seem to be pretty good in this game. Now, in this video, I'm only showing the very first area, because I don't want to spoil the game for people, especially since I'm advising you not to buy the game currently. But the game does have some good shortcuts, some good level design, and some pretty good world design from what I've seen in the first few hours of the game. Now, again, that's not necessarily saying that the whole game is going to be like that, but from what I've seen the first few hours, the game does seem to be going in a pretty good direction, and I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing. The combat does seem to be pretty good. There's a lot of variety in the weapons and the enemies, and there's a lot of different builds. I mean, literally, when you get to choose your character, you can select one of, I think, 12 different classes, maybe 10 at the least, but definitely 10, 11 or 12 classes you can select from right from the get-go, which is a lot of replayability I'm seeing there. Now, one thing which I did notice, I'm not sure if this game has strength and dexterity builds, so light and heavy builds. I'm pretty sure it probably does, because it does seem to be following Dark Souls very closely, but there's only one statistic which you can level up, which increases the damage of a specific weapon type, and that is called strength. There isn't one which I think would be a dexterity equivalent, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, the game, it does do that really weird thing which some Souls-likes do, where they just rename the stats for some reason just to confuse you. Which I don't know why they don't just keep them the same name, like, have intelligence for magic, but for some reason it's called something else here. I don't know why they do that, but I think I can see that, there's definitely going to be a lot of different classes. There's a pyromancy, there's magic and all that kind of stuff, which is, there's a lot of different builds, and I like what I'm seeing there. Now, the character creation, I think, is pretty weak. That's one thing I'm a little bit disappointed in. From what I saw, I thought this game was going to have a pretty good in-depth character creation, but it was not really very good, and they all looked pretty shit, to be honest. I couldn't make a character that looked good at all. tried my best for a while, but I just couldn't really do much. So that's a bit of a shame. Now, going back to the combat again, this game's got everything you'd really expect in a Dark Souls game. You've got your parry, you've got your backstab, you've got plunging attacks, you've got charge attacks, heavy attacks, light attacks. All that kind of stuff is here. Blocking also is here. This game, I'm interested to see if this game took that from Lies of P, is that the regain system where you block an attack, and then when you block an attack, you have the option to get back the health that you lost from the block by dealing damage to the enemy straight away. It's a variation on Bloodborne's regain system, except utilizing a block, which is something that Dark Souls has never done, Elden Ring never did, but the only other game that I know that did it was Lies of P, and this game is now doing it. So I think maybe the game did rip off Lies of P just a little bit in that mechanic. I'm not sure if the early versions of the game, the early builds, had that mechanic, and I'd be interested in knowing, because if they did rip off Lies of P, that'd be that's interesting. So the combat, it does feel pretty good. It feels pretty silky smooth. The dodges are very responsive. The dash as well is very responsive. That all feels really good. Healing is really quick, and you can still move while you're healing. So that kind of stuff in regards to the combat, it all feels very good. And like I said, I think the game feels and controls good. I'm not going to say great, but good. And it makes it enjoyable enough to play. Now, again, separating it from the performance, I think this game definitely will feel good to play. Currently, it doesn't, but I think it will when the game's updated and the patch sorts out all this terrible performance shit which we've currently got going on. And that's if it does. I'll be doing another video, believe me, if it doesn't sort it out. If the patch that's going to be releasing in this couple of days doesn't sort out those performance issues, because Jesus, I mean, oh. Anyway, sorry, I did do a separate video talking a little bit more about that, which you can check out if you want to. It should be recommended, probably. Now, I think the only other thing I really want to talk about is this whole umbral mechanic, where you can go to this other kind of world, and you use a sort of lantern, and you can traverse into this other version of the world, which is a bit like the Upside Down from Stranger Things, or Silent Hill, the different world you go to in Silent Hill. And I like it. I think the mechanic is interesting, but I just don't think it's really... They make a big deal out of it, but I just don't think it's very interesting, really. It sounds cool on paper that you can go to this other version of the world, and got different environments and things look a bit different, but it all just looks really ugly. It's all just this purpley grey colour, and it doesn't look very interesting, really, and I don't think... From my time with the game, I don't think it really does very much with this mechanic. It's just, especially the longer that you spend in this umbral realm, the more dangerous monsters come and get you, and then you can fight them if you want to, and you get stuff from maybe fighting them, so it's got that risk-reward kind of side to it, which is interesting, but I just don't really think it's that interesting. Like I said, I just don't think, I mean, to be honest, it's just very... I don't know how to describe it. It just doesn't seem very inspired. It doesn't seem that original, really. And it's not really that engaging when you're there. And one thing that I don't like is I thought that it was always going to be a choice when you could go to this umbral realm. But unfortunately, the game has sort of like a Sekiro-like system where the first time you die, you come back, but you're in the umbral realm. And then you can keep on fighting in the umbral realm and then hope to try and come back to the regular realm. I don't actually like that. I think on paper, yes, oh yeah, you can die once and then you get a second chance. That sounds good, but it means you constantly go into this ugly world which is just purple and grey and looks really depressing. I don't like that. Like, I understand that the Dark Souls has this dark visual aesthetic, which I do like. I like the world, but I just don't like it all in Lords of the Fallen. Everything's just grey and purple and it looks really ugly and unappealing, and really, and the fact that every single time you die you have to go there, a lot of the time I'm thinking, just kill me. I'd rather just die and not be in this realm, and then I can go back to the bonfire and carry on again, and I don't have to be in this ugly looking world which just doesn't look very good. It looks, so currently I'm going to say I'm very mixed on Lords of the Fallen. Again, I'm separating this opinion entirely from the performance here. Forget about the performance issues. The game, I still think I'm very mixed on. I think the game, it plays good, but not great. The game is very, very similar to Dark Souls, but then it's just still not quite as good as Dark Souls, you know? So it's like, when I'm playing it, I'm thinking, okay, this game's doing some interesting things. It's got some interesting ideas, but what am I getting out of this game that I wouldn't get by playing Elden Ring or Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne? Those games do everything this game's doing a million times better with much more fluid feeling controls. And I think Lies of P, okay, because this game's definitely going to get compared to Lies of P, because Lies of P recently came out into Soulslike, and it was received very well, and I think it's a phenomenal game. So Lords of the Fallen is definitely going to get compared to that. But I think Lies of P, it nailed the performance, and the controls and the gameplay all felt absolutely fantastic in that game. And it was definitely ripping off Bloodborne to a whole other level. It was completely ripping off Bloodborne, yes. But it still had its own story, its own unique enemies, and it had some unique mechanics which made it feel like it was standing apart. I personally feel like the combat in Lies of P is absolutely fantastic. The way in which you can pair parrying with this new unique regain system, I think it's really fun. And if you play that game, you get something that you don't get when you play Dark Souls or even Sekiro, which is the game that the combat is probably most similar to. The combat system in Lies of P is still unique from Sekiro, even though it's very similar, and it's unique from Bloodborne, even though it's still very similar, and the enemies and the story is still very different, so you still feel like, yes, it's definitely taking a lot from those games, but it's still giving it its own flavour. Lords of the Fallen, I just don't feel like does that. This Umbral World thing, okay, sure, it's different, but what's it really adding to the experience that makes it feel good and feel like, yes, I want to play Lords of the Fallen rather than Elden Ring or Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne? I can't really say there's anything Lords of the Fallen does that the other games don't just do better. And yes, I was there. I made a video talking about how I want a Dark Souls 4. And I still do. I still would love to get a Dark Souls 4. And Lords of the Fallen currently is the closest we're really getting to a Dark Souls 4. But I think the issue is it just doesn't have anything that makes it feel worthwhile. Like, the level design sure is good, but it's not, still not From Software standards. The world design's good, still not From Software standards. The combat and the movement of your character, good, but still not great. And I think if it had that, and if it had a bit more, because think about it, Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Elden Ring, the bosses, the boss design, the music, all feels special, and it all feels like a lot of thought and care and love has gone into crafting these unique experiences. And even the Dark Souls 1 and 2 and 3 and Elden Ring all have their own flavour. Like, Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring are probably the most similar in terms of boss design visually, but they still have their own flavour, and Lords of the Fallen just doesn't feel like it has its own style or flavour that makes it stand apart from anything else, really. And I think that's the worst thing a game could do, is just feel bland. And it is Lords of the Fallen, it does, it feels bland. And I just... yeah, so I think that's pretty much my summary currently. Now, I'm going to have an updated review once I've beaten the game, like I do with Lies of P. My final review of this game will probably come out in about a week and a half. I'd say a week and a half-ish, maybe 2 weeks, we'll see. And I'm going to have more videos covering this game, because I still like the game and I still want to support it, because I always want to support, developers who are making more Souls-like content, because I do think we should support developers, because I think competition's always a healthy thing. And if there's a company which does come up, and this company here that made this game, they literally said in an interview that they want to be the second company behind From Software to make Souls-like games. And they literally said when they made this game, they went out to make Dark Souls 4.5. And okay, They've definitely made things similar to Dark Souls, but I think it doesn't stand on its own 2 feet. But like I said, I do want to support them, and I think, you know, it's not everything I wanted it to be, this game, but I think there's still some good there, and I still want to support that, and I want the best for this game. So I'm going to continue covering it, making more content, and I'm going to have an updated review. After the maybe my opinion will change. Maybe the performance patch will come out, and suddenly things just feel better. I'm feeling more optimistic. My character's moving better. The performance is better, and it'll make me want to play the game more. And I'll get more invested into it, because there's a lot here that I still haven't experienced. Maybe the game ends up getting ridiculously good. So I'm going to have an updated review in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Maybe share this video with anything. My if it was good enough. Thank you again for watching. This is Soul signing out. Have a good one.